Well, good evening, IFL fans, and welcome back to the lab, your weekly source for all the rundown of everything that is the Indoor Football League. Whether you're here for the recap of the week that was, the previews of the week that is to come, or the other goings on of this great league, you've come to the right place. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a very special Wednesday edition of Wager Wednesday in the Indoor Football League. Thank you so much again for tuning in, taking some time out of your evening as we lead up to this 4th of July weekend. Nice little time off for those Wilkern folk out there like me. For those of you who are new to the Indoor Football League or to this channel, let me warmly welcome you aboard. My name is Alex Schuberth. I am a huge fan of the indoor football game, a passion that I've channeled into my current role as lead IFL contributor for a sports forum called Sports Coast to Coast. We are a Pacific Northwest-based sports forum site that specializes specifically in the coverage of the Indoor Football League and its 14-member team specifically, amongst other recaps of other leagues with the Pacific Northwest flavor. So in the Indoor Football League, whether you're looking for up-to-date team rosters, game previews, recaps, other analysis, and hot takes, Sports Coast to Coast is the place to enhance your Indoor Football League fandom. I've included a link to that, a URL, in the description below, so definitely go check it out. There you will find the written version of basically this video. So if you don't want to sit around for however long of a video, you can always go for the quick 5 to 8 minute read over there. So it is time to go to our next segment here, which is the presentation piece. Monica chiming in of the nice little merchandise here. Yep, I had to. Custom made it. Tell you what, if you or the family want some, just tell me where to send it. I can customize it and get some over to you guys as well. But we're here. We're representing. It's all good vibes. So that brings us to Week 16 of the 2025 season. We're here. We're in July. One more month of regular season action before we pare the field down from 14 to 8 for the 3-week playoff gauntlet leading up to the Indoor Football League National Championship, which we'll have more info on at the end of the show, so definitely stick around for that. So tonight, we're going to be going over Week 15, a madly successful week for us on the predictions front. And within that, we had some pretty intense action around the board. We had a bona fide title contender finally snap a prolonged losing streak. We had a shootout in the desert and the best defensive single game performance in the COVID era by the unlikeliest of teams. So we will get to all 6 games, talk about what happened in each of them in just a little bit. After that, we'll see how those results add up in our year-to-date tracker for straight-up bets and parlays. Go into each of the 3 bet types, identify where there is value or maybe a lack of value within each of those, whether it's a general league sense or team-by-team sense. And once we kind of lay the land there, we'll get into Week 16. We have 3 games. They're pretty evenly spread apart. We have one Thursday, one Saturday, and one on Monday night. And we will use those 3 games to craft up a 3-leg parlay attempt, which hopefully will get us out of the slump we're in, which we will talk about shortly. So in Week 15, we had 3 games kick off in the earlier window, the 8:05 Eastern window. We'll get things started here with Fishers at Tulsa, a game where we had the over at 83.5, despite the Oilers trying to navigate life without TJ Edwards. out longer term with that injury that he suffered a couple weeks ago. In this game, things looked pretty promising at first. Both teams trotted out new quarterbacks. Tulsa with Hassan Rogers and Fishers with a newly signed guy they got from Massachusetts, Felix Harper. We ended up getting 3 touchdowns on the first 3 drives. It was 16-7. Things were looking good. And then we didn't get scoring for another 35 minutes of game action. Coupled with Tulsa's struggles to finish off drives, Fishers staying efficient a little bit on the offense, but more so defensively. As that one touchdown that they gave up to the Oilers early in the first quarter was the only instance of scoring that they would wind up doing through the entire game. That really lightened the load on the offense. They just cruised right on through, en route to a massive upset that significantly changes the Eastern Conference playoff race. It is a 33-7 final score. Fishers winning their second straight game. Tulsa falling to 7-6, which at the moment is good for number 4 in the Eastern Conference. But for how long might that be? The bye week comes at a really good time for them to try to sort things out at the quarterback position, whether they get Rogers more snaps or maybe incorporate newly signed Kobe Gatson a little bit more. We'll see how things shake out in the Sooner State, but a lot of questions to answer. In Iowa, we had another bona fide wild Iowa Barnstormers game. They hosted the Jacksonville Sharks, looking to further improve their seeding along the Eastern Conference. And that Shark offense, led by Tyler Huff, picked up right where they left off last week when they demolished Quad City. Tyler Huff, another strongly efficient game. Him running the ball along with Larry McCammon was about the 1-2 punch that Jacksonville needed in this game. It was pretty close early on. It was only a 3-point game at halftime. But then Jacksonville in the fourth quarter started to make a little bit of a run of their own, keyed largely by a couple of defensive stands in the fourth quarter. As you can see, we had the over at 94.5. Our bet came down to the final drive. Jacksonville was up 58-32, game total at 90 points at that instant. We needed an Iowa touchdown, and we needed it before all the time ran off the clock. And Keon Williams, saving grace of this wager, runs in about a 3 or 4 yard touchdown run with 7 seconds remaining to cash a crazy sweat-laden bet. The Iowa Overs deliver once again. The bet is 10-2 overall on the season. With this 58-40 result, Jacksonville beating Iowa in this game to grab lone hold of second place in the Eastern Conference. And Iowa down to 1-11, now facing a short week plus travel. Our other 8 o'clock game was the Massachusetts Pirates, red hot with 4 consecutive wins, taking on the Quad City Steamwheelers. And again, this game was another one where at halftime, it was pretty much anybody's game. It was 25-23, I believe it was the Quad City advantage. The Steamwheelers pushed that out to 5 points early in the second half. And the Pirates had a couple of opportunities to get a touchdown and take the lead. But each time, it was either a combination of Quad City shutdown defense or some ill-timed Massachusetts penalties that turned them back. And that's when things got from bad to worse for the Pirates. It ended up being a second half started off by a Quad City run of 28-6, punctuated by a fumble in the end zone on a kickoff that was recovered by Quad City for a touchdown. Just one of those plays where if you're supporting the Pirates in any capacity, you just look at that and you say, yeah, this is not right. And thus was so. The Pirates dropped this one, snapping the 4-game losing streak. Quad City with a dominant win, 56-35, the final in that one. So Quad City retaining the number 1 seed at 10-3, a game above Jacksonville, while the Pirates dropped to a record of 6-6, a half game behind Tulsa for that fourth and final playoff spot out in the East. 2 games adorn the 9 o'clock window on Saturday night with the Green Bay Blizzard and Arizona Rattlers, a battle of 2 bona fide title contenders from opposing conferences where you could make the case potential IFL championship preview. This is a rematch of a Week 3 game that took place at the Rush Center that Arizona won on a last-second touchdown drive. This one was far more comfortable for the hosts. Staring a 4-game losing streak dead in the face is not easy, much less for a team with the caliber and the prestige as Arizona. But give them credit, man. They played a heck of a game in this one. They got out ahead early and often, keyed by a great performance by Ron Brown Jr. with 5 total touchdowns and an unbelievable defensive effort that limited Green Bay, a team scoring nearly 54 points a game, to basically half that total. It was just simply exceptional ball from Arizona, and Green Bay just didn't really have a shot to match. This was another one of their games similar to the one that they had in Tulsa earlier this season, where they were just on the road and didn't have all the pieces in place that night. The final score in this one was 48-28. Arizona getting the win, getting to 8-5, putting that losing streak behind them, and now focused in on a serious push for home turf advantage, at least in the first round of the playoffs, though they're certainly hoping for more. And for Green Bay, the loss puts them at number 3 in the Eastern Conference at 8-5, with one of the more difficult schedules in the IFL remaining. So we'll see how they were able to recover when that time comes. Last 9 o'clock game on Saturday was the Bay Area Panthers at Northern Arizona Wranglers, and I will say, after rewatching this game, this got interesting. Bay Area, 17.5-point favorites, the largest spread in any game in the Indoor Football League this season. Perhaps it might surprise you to hear, Bay Area never had a lead larger than 17.5. This game, Northern Arizona came out with absolutely nothing to lose, and they played pretty darn good ball to start this game. At halftime, they were up by 1. In the fourth quarter, they were up by 7. Bay Area needed to wake up in the worst of ways to avoid what would have been a cataclysmic upset. And thanks to a couple key plays in the fourth quarter, they were able to do just that. Axel Perez in particular was massive in this game, hitting 3 deuces, including the go-ahead deuce after Bay Area's game-tying touchdown drive to take a 32-30 lead, one that they would not relinquish the rest of the way out. They forced a missed field goal from Northern Arizona, expanded their lead with a touchdown and another deuce, and ended up getting a fumble at the goal line recovered by the Panthers to seal the game off. So, valiant effort for Northern Arizona. Full credit to Ron James and the staff out there. But in the end, Bay Area just happened to make a couple more plays, as good teams do. 41-30, the final score. The Panthers move to a league-best 10-2 record, while the Wranglers fall to a league-worst 1-12 with just a few games left to play. Bay Area with a 2.5-game lead on everybody else in the Western Conference, with a chance to build on that this week. So stick around to see what their next game will look like. We had a standalone Sunday game in Tucson, the host city for the IFL Championship, where the Sugar Skulls welcomed in the Vegas Nighthawks to town. And this game, in every sense of the word, was a shootout. If you come to this game watching it for pure offense, this was the game to tune into. A little bit of a slow start for Tucson. They went turnover on downs on their first couple of possessions. But at a couple different points in the game, they did get a pair of turnovers that kind of helped them get back into the conversation a little bit. They were down by as many as 16. They were able to cut that lead down to 3 points on a couple different occasions. But unfortunately for the Sugar Skulls, they were in search of a defensive stand in the fourth quarter and simply could not get it. Jaden DeLaura and Antonio Wimbush flexing their muscle once again in terms of both running and passing in the case of DeLaura, consistently finding his guys like Mike Kerrigan, CJ Wyndham, Quentin Randolph for pretty reliable passes, which more often than not found their way into the end zone. So this game ended 59-55 in favor of the Nighthawks. Anybody who had the Nighthawks on the spread know full well what happened in the last minute. That turned out to be a backdoor cover play for the Sugar Skulls with a Trip Harrington touchdown catch with about 30 seconds to go in the game to make the margin a little less than what it probably ought to have been. But however it shakes out, Vegas ties themselves up with Arizona with the record of 8-5 overall, while Tucson's playoff case takes a serious hit as the Sugar Skulls move to 5-7 on the season. And Monica right there with me saying Vegas Tucson was epic. Absolutely. Sure as heck was. And your thoughts on the Fishers game? The game would go under 83.5. You were absolutely right about that one. And I think I said if you are right and I'm wrong, you can go ahead and laugh at me at doing so. So the floor is yours, I guess. But yeah, that is how we strung our way to an amazing 5-1 week. Only that Fishers Tulsa game was the hiccup. So we've got a really good record going now of 48 wins and 40 losses. We've got 24 games left in the regular season to select. If we split down the middle, go 12-12, we're at 60 wins. Pretty good, but I feel that we're on the cusp of something far greater. So we'll see how the next 4 weeks pan out. Our 3-leg parlay attempt of the week was another 2 for 3. We've had a bunch of these within this 9-game week or 9-week losing streak when it comes to trying to put together that winning parlay. The leg that undid us this time was the Pirates plus 3.5. They were playing respectable up until that second half collapse, which kind of put things into the dumpster, despite getting wins on the Bay Area Northern Arizona total and the Vegas money line hit. So goes to show you, winning parlays is tough. We joke around sometimes about how saying, 3 wins, shouldn't that be that tough to do conceptually, but the reality of the fact is that one weird curveball thrown at you can spoil the entire bunch. So as you can see, we've got a few weeks left to try to come up with that 4th winner, which I'm hoping happens within the next few weeks here. Our weekly results to date, we are right back at that 0 line, basically, as far as the flat method goes. We are a slight net gain, not by a whole lot. The weighted method trailing behind by a little bit more, by about a few units. We'll have to see if we continue to get favorite money line picks correct, how much that gap is shortened between the flat and the weighted method. But as you can see, the two are tracking along pretty identically, which is not too surprising. The only surprise therein, perhaps, is probably where things have resulted at this point in time. So 5-1 week last week is great, but the challenge is continuing to build on it. And the same graph as well, except for ROI, which determines percentage relative to amount of money won compared to amount of money wagered. So basically right at that 0 line for the flat method, around 2.5% for the weighted method. Our goal is to hopefully get both methods, though I'm certainly hoping at least the flat method, at or above that 5% green line there, which is what we had set our preseason goal at as far as a result at the end of the season. So here are our yearly results by bet. Sorry, nearly had an episode there. But just like last week, spread betting and over-under betting, there's not really much you can tell by looking at the whole population in full. Favorites are covering equally as much as underdogs. Overs are cashing equally as much as unders, with the specific number that the total is placed at pretty much independent of result. So within finding value there, like we said last week, we've got to take a closer look at, what are the competing teams doing in terms of their individual spread bet records or over-under records. Again, the home team dominance is very much real, winning and covering nearly 60% of the time. So we had tapped into that quite a bit with our picks on Quad City and Arizona last week, for example. And both those teams ended up getting 20-plus point victories. So is that something that we will be leaning upon in any of these few games this week? We will soon see. Our team-by-team trends. As has been the deal the past few weeks, any statistically significant results are highlighted in either green or red, depending on which direction they're kind of falling in. The ones that jump off the page as far as spread and over-unders, Quad City, best team in the IFL at 10-3 on the spread. Iowa, 10-2 to the over. Pretty ridiculous to think about, though unsurprising considering their defensive average, which we'll get to once we dive into Iowa's upcoming game. And another surprising result, too, Northern Arizona and Massachusetts, for example, with their over-under bets, they do look convincingly under. But I think either 3 of their past 5 or 3 of their past 4 games, respectively, have gone over. So do we see a little bit more of a correction, a regression to the mean on those couple bets? Do we see that happening with other bet types? 24 games left, so there's a little bit of ground to see exactly what's happening with those. Our bet results by team. At this point, this is pretty much crunch time in terms of trying to get all of our teams to at least 7 betting wins on the season. This week in particular is going to be very challenging because of the teams that are playing this week, we have the Pirates, we have the Gunslingers, and we have the Strike Force. All 3 of which we've won just 4 bets compared to losing 8. And in the case of the Tulsa Oilers, we actually need to win each of their 3 predictions over the next 3 weeks just to make 7-9. So those are the teams that we've been struggling with the most. The teams that we've been doing really well with include Quad City, Jacksonville, Northern Arizona, Bay Area. All of those guys except for Bay Area are on bye. So what I'm hoping we can do is leverage our ability at correctly selecting Panthers games to sort of offset anything in terms of struggles for Bay Area, or San Diego, rather. And now it is time for our weekly section on our disclaimers. The lines and odds that we're going to be using tonight are going to come from DraftKings Sportsbook, though I recently learned either last week or maybe leading up to this week, Bet365 offers IFL lines depending on which state you are in. So worthwhile to check out if you're looking for a secondary option there. But we're going to be using DraftKings as we always have from the very beginning of this series. This is purely for entertainment, for curiosity, and for fun. I'm not here giving out, overtly giving out betting advice. The risk of losing is very real. There's no guaranteed lock or free play as far as sports betting goes. As we've learned over the course of time, anything and everything can happen in the world of sports. If you would like to tail or fade my selections, you're more than welcome to do so, but please gamble responsibly. Practice safe gambling habits, including setting a budget in both time and money terms. Risk only what you can afford to lose. And if you or a loved one feels like you're having trouble with problem gaming or kind of gravitating towards it, there's a lot of resources, both online and state sanctioned, that provide assistance in that area. A couple examples of some sites: haveagameplan.org, responsibleplay.org are but many of the great examples out there. And sportsbooks even have budgeting tools that they've been building up, allowing some of their customers to use. So it might be something to consider if you feel like you're teetering on problem gaming. But know that there is help out there for those who are seeking it. And with that said, it's an abbreviated 3-game slate, an abbreviated big board, but nonetheless, let's go in and check these games out. So we will begin things with tomorrow's game at Tasonga Center on the eve of 4th of July. The Iowa Barnstormers facing a short week plus travel, hitting the road, taking on the Pirates, where the Pirates are laying nearly 2 touchdowns, 13 on the hook to be exact. The over-under is 92.5. On the money line, the Barnstormers are plus 350, and the Pirates are minus 455. And I will say this much about the Pirates: they got a massive solid from the Fisher's Freight by the Freight defeating the Oilers last week. That puts the Pirates, believe it or not, in the driver's seat to leapfrog Tulsa in the standings, depending on if they can take this game against Iowa. The two teams would be tied in the standings leading up to their clash next week, but the Pirates do have the tiebreaker with a superior in-conference record compared to the Oilers. As far as Iowa goes, they're just trying to find anything they can to try to string together a win. For James Cahoon, he actually comes back to his home state to play some IFL football. Granted, Lowell is quite a ways away from Cape Cod, but still same geographic region, so I think we can count it. The Barnstormers' problem, as has been the case throughout the season, has been its Swiss cheese defense. I actually looked at the numbers earlier today. Iowa gives up 58 points per game. Like, you have to try to be that inept when it comes to the defensive side of the football. For context, the next worst team, Northern Arizona, 46.1 points per game. So basically 2 full touchdowns worse than the 13th ranked defense in the IFL. So obviously not good news for the Barnstormers heading into this game with the Pirates, who in the prior meeting in Des Moines already slashed this Barnstormer defense for 66 points in that 66-35 win back on June 14th. So yeah, for Iowa, this is a matter of, can they come out and surprise people? And for the Pirates, this is going to be a game of, can they take care of business, no nonsense, and put themselves into that driver's seat, as I said, as far as gaining a leg up in the playoff race, with a little bit of confidence to boot. My pick for this game, I'm lobbying for points here. This probably shouldn't surprise many people, but the over at 92.5. Iowa games just have this really stupid way of consistently finding the over. Case in point, last week's game against Jacksonville. That game had no business getting above that 94.5 mark, but that touchdown with 7 seconds left by Iowa suggested otherwise. For us, we know that Massachusetts is going to get theirs offensively here. Assuming that everybody's healthy along the offense, like Puka Williams, Thomas Owens, Kenji Bahar, if that unit's at full strength, they could probably get to that 58-point average, which then the question becomes, can Iowa get to, say, 35, 36 points? I believe that they can, especially given Massachusetts' struggles last week in the deep passing game. That, in turn, could prepare them a little bit more for the pass-happy offense led by Cahoon. But anytime the over-under is set at this number, you have that sneaking suspicion that the game's going to come down to the 1-minute warning. Iowa's going to have the ball down 20-something, and they're going to go get a touchdown to cash this over. We could see the same thing happening here. There's a reason why Barnstormers games are 10-2 to the over, and a little bit of a reason why Pirates games have gone over in 3 consecutive games. Their offense is clicking, save for last week against Quad City. I feel like both ends of the ball, the Pirates get back to it here. They get back to that stretch of play that they had during their 4-game winning streak. So my play here, Iowa and Massachusetts light up the night sky with points aplenty. Saturday's game in Freeman Coliseum sees the Tucson Sugar Skulls try to keep their playoff hopes alive against the recently eliminated Gunslingers. It's projected to be a close one, though. Tucson favored by only 1.5. The over-under is 82.5. On the money line, Tucson, you're laying a nickel or a quarter, and San Antonio is plus a nickel. It's very tough for me to project this game based simply on the fact that San Antonio has been eliminated. And that's going to open a lot of doors as far as decisions to make when it comes to, who starts at each of the respective positions for the Gunslingers. It could very well be Joaquin Collazo and the rest of the veterans out there once again to try to put a dent into Tucson's playoff hopes, which in this case could perhaps be the dagger for them. But kind of like what we saw with Northern Arizona after they got eliminated, they gave Caleb Lowe a shot in place of Ramon Atkins, who had been playing some pretty good ball. So don't really know what's going to happen in San Antonio there, but we do know what's happening with Tucson. We know that we're going to get a full-fledged effort, regular vanilla starters out there, and they're going to come out and try to win a game that they simply must win. And a little bit of a fun nugget for this one, it is Superhero Night in San Antonio. So maybe a little bit of the strength implied there helps the home team glide their way to victory here. I feel like it's going to be tough either way, especially with the way that Tucson's playing offense right now. I think they have a very good matchup here against a San Antonio defense that, like I said, we don't know the personnel that they're going to throw out there. And even their starters out there weren't particularly great down the stretch. I see this game as too important for Tucson to let slip from their grasp. So let's lay the 1.5 here on the road and go with the Sugar Skulls to come up with a pretty respectable effort here. They were going with Vegas toe-to-toe, basically, on Sunday's contest, but they just couldn't get the defensive stand. I'm suspecting that that unit could resurrect itself a little bit here against an uncertain San Antonio offense. And that really, to me, was the difference between picking this on the spread and picking this on the money line. I chose the spread because, listen, it's 1 point. If Tucson ends up winning this game by exactly 1 point, that will probably be the most hilarious bad beat of the season. And you know what? If it comes down to that, so be it. But I do like the chances of a multi-point victory here for the Sugar Skulls on the road. I think they'll keep their playoff bid alive, at least for this week. So Tucson -1 in the hook there. Once those two games are played, We'll wrap up the week with some Monday Night Football. The Bay Area Panthers on the road playing San Diego in the Battle of California, Volume 3 of the 2025 season. Bay Area is laying 5.5 as the visitors. The over-under is 85.5. On the money line, Bay Area is minus 198 and San Diego's plus 164. This is a very interesting game because if you think about it, both teams go into it with a little bit more rest than they typically get. Bay Area last played on Saturday night when they defeated the Northern Arizona Wranglers and now get a couple extra days to kind of recoup, prepare, and travel. Heading into this game against the Strikeforce team, they've already beaten by 23 points twice earlier this season. Meanwhile, the San Diego Strikeforce are coming off last week's bye, which couldn't have come at a more perfect time for them. They were dealing with a lot of injuries, particularly recently, so they're hoping that the extra week off, plus the couple extra days of rest by virtue of this game being on Monday, help them out substantially in terms of getting their best players back onto the field. They're going to need them in this matchup. Bay Area has just been a juggernaut all season long. Save for that season opening hiccup and their 5-point loss to Arizona, they've pretty much waxed everybody else that they've faced by at least 10 plus points, with the exception, of course, of the game they had against the Oilers, where they won by 3 points off that late interception off TJ Edwards to seal that game. This game's going to be interesting. Both teams are coming in very hot in very different ways. In the case of Nate Davis and the San Diego offense, 50-plus point outings in each of the last 3 games. That contrasts with Bay Area's defense, which has spent the past 5 games averaging just around 30 points per game. It's a stretch that's helped the Panthers become the league's top-ranked scoring defense, giving up just over 34 points per game for the season in full. So, San Diego has a case for home field advantage that they're going to try to add to with a win here. And the Panthers could get themselves closer to the Western Conference regular season crown if they get the job done here. It's very tough to pick this game because I could absolutely see this going both ways. Monica showing support of San Diego coming off the bye. I definitely could see a scenario where that happens. Would it surprise me? Absolutely not. If San Diego were to win this game. But my pick here is going to be Bay Area at minus 5.5. And I made this pick for a couple different reasons. Number one is Bay Area's track record and their winning margins in games leading up to this one. As I said, all except for one of their victories have been by double digits. And I feel like their game against Northern Arizona last week served as a much-needed wake-up call. Maybe not much needed, but a little something unexpected to kind of light a little fire underneath them, to kind of let them know, hey, you can't just simply coast to the first round of the playoffs and hope to have everything turn out okay. But yeah, this is a matchup of 2 really hot teams right now, as Monica points out. The Panthers on a 6-game win streak, while San Diego is winners of each of their last 5. So one of those streaks will come tumbling down in this game. And the other reason why I spotted this pick as the one that I go with, Bay Area, second best in the IFL at covering spreads. And they've been favored in pretty much every game except for one where they were a pick'em at Arizona. So 8-4 is their spread record. Only Quad City is better at 10-3. And if that Panther defense can keep it up and they can hold San Diego to around that mid-30s, all we're going to need is pretty much 40-plus from the Bay Area Panther offense, which I will concede has had its struggles of their own, but so too has San Diego's defense. Even in their past 3 wins, you're looking at a strike force team that's given up 42, 53, and 49, I believe. So it's a very interesting matchup. Both sides of the ball, both special teams are exceptional between Ernesto Lacayo and Axel Perez for the Strike Force and Panthers, respectively. But I'm going to go with the trend here. I'm going to go with Bay Area hot on the spread, and I think they get this job done on the road. Try to wrap up any sort of conversation about number one seed in the West as soon as they can. To try to give some of their bona fide starters maybe a little bit of rest leading up to the postseason. So that is a game-by-game look at the three-game slate. Now it's time to come up with the parlay. So which three picks do we believe over the course of these three games will turn up green? Starting with Iowa and Massachusetts, I'm taking the Pirates here on the spread. Minus 13.5. The diehard Pirates fan inside of me is saying, please, for the love of God, do not do this. But the objective, numerically driven side of me says this is the play to go with. Each of the Pirates' 4 home wins against Iowa in this all-time series have been by at least this number. 14, 20, 25, and 36 points are those margins of victory against the Barnstormers in the Bay State. Iowa's also winless on the road. They're 0-6. Could technically be 0-6 on the spread as well, but they did have a couple of sneaky little backdoor covers sprinkled in between there. And not to mention that Iowa is 4-8 against the spread in total on the season. That is actually the worst mark of the 14 teams in the IFL. So a bunch of statistics pointing here to Massachusetts getting the job done here by at least a pair of touchdowns. You always have to worry about that backdoor cover a little bit, particularly at this number. But again, if the Pirates play their A game here, which there's every reason to believe, this could be a game decided by 17 or more points in favor of the home side. The urgency is going to be there for Massachusetts. And Monica going a little bit differently here. Iowa plus 13.5. It's going to depend. It's really going to depend on if Iowa can make maybe a stop or two more than they usually do on the defensive side. If they're able to, this absolutely could hit. But even if it doesn't, we could have a scenario the Pirates are up by 21 points. Iowa's got the last drive. Guess what? Garbage time touchdown with 10 seconds left. Extra point gets them into cover territory. It's always the give and take relationship of these spread bets. But for right now, I like the Pirates at home to make this number. In the Tucson-San Antonio game, I decided to buy the point here and go with the Sugar Skulls on the money line. So this is a full fade of San Antonio in this situation, despite the heartwarming, encouraging superhero night theme that's going on in Alamo Town. This logic goes very similarly to the logic guiding Massachusetts here. Tucson, if they want to have a shot, they need to win at least 3 of their last 4 games. They probably have to win out. And any sort of start at a miracle run has to begin here against a San Antonio team that has struggled mightily with consistency on the season. They've had a few spike games. They have beaten like San Diego and Bay Area this season. But outside of that, just not consistent enough for me to pull the trigger on San Antonio, especially at plus 105. You probably have to beef that up a little bit to plus 150 for me to consider it. So minus 125, great value there as far as an outright selection goes. So we're going to go with that one. And lastly, on Monday's Bay Area San Diego game, like I said, this is a full ride Bay Area. This is our second outright moneyline favorite pick of this parlay. But it does keep us at our plus 400 minimum odds requirement, or should I say above it. And we also get the benefit of taking the league's best team in terms of record for a straight-up victory. Like I said, San Diego could absolutely win this game if some breaks go their way and they play just positively astounding football. This is the time of year where upsets do tend to happen. But I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's so tough to fade the Bay Area Panthers. It really is. And you have to think that offense with Josh Jones, Josh Thomas, Oyen Conme, they're going to hit their stride and finally get to a 50-plus point outing that they've been so accustomed to getting in the early stages of the season. And Monica going the opposite here. San Diego plus 5.5. Definitely some value in that, I find. I also see a ton of value in the under here at 85.5, believe it or not. That pick just basically boils down to me thinking Bay Area can limit San Diego, let's say, under 40 points. Their defensive form right now is just immaculate, and it's going to take a very noteworthy effort to kind of buck that trend from San Diego to Bay Area. But I'm going to go with the Panthers here outright. I picked them in last week's parlay as well, I believe. No, I picked Bay Area, Northern Arizona under. It was biggest money line that I picked outright. But in any event, this is my parlay for the week. Starting off on Thursday with Pirates minus 13.5. Tucson on Saturday to outright win. And Bay Area on Monday to outright win. If we take those three legs, put $10 on it, that comes out to a win of $51.71 if we are lucky. So that's the parlay of this week. Save it if you'd like. Tail it. Completely fade it. Do what you will with it. But that is my plan of attack. And with all of that said, that is going to put a wrap on week 16 of Wager Wednesday. Just a few games on the docket, but they're all evenly spaced, so you'll be able to catch all of the action on IFL Network. I've put the URL for that also in the description. And I did mention earlier in the show some news about the IFL National Championship. For those who may not be aware yet, tickets have gone on sale for that game. It's going to be taking place on Saturday, August 23rd, 7:30 p.m. at Tucson Convention Center in Tucson, Arizona. So whether you're local or maybe on the opposite side of the country and you're interested in that game, definitely go lock in your tickets now. They are available through Ticketmaster. You can do some navigation to kind of figure out your way around there. The IFL made a post on X with a link to more easily get to that specific page. So if you're interested in going, definitely get your tickets sooner rather than later. I will be at that game. So August 23rd might be a nice opportunity to spot me, come say hello, and either applaud me or mock me for my picks, both successful and unsuccessful, on the season. So that is the big news that came out. I believe it was yesterday. It was yesterday morning that tickets were announced. So definitely go get yours if you're interested. With that, for those of you trying your luck on the betting markets this week in the IFL, I wish you the best of luck, and I will see you at the cashier. Have a great night. Have a happy 4th and enjoy Iowa, Massachusetts tomorrow night.